Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Foodyaari, I, Ms. Simran Ahuja, would like to welcome our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Ashwin Bhadri sir, and all the attendees for the seventh webinar session of the Foodyaari series organized by Foodyaari, which is a cloud web-based platform in the domain of food science and technology. The Foodinar series consists of a sequence of webinar sessions with eminent professional speakers from the food industry as our guest speakers. In these uncertain times of COVID, let us all come together and acquire valuable knowledge from the comfort of our own houses. So, I present to you the topic for today's webinar: Challenges and Opportunities of Being an Entrepreneur, for which we have with us today our guest of honor, Mr. Ashwin Bhadri sir, the founder and CEO of Equinox Labs. Sir is an international speaker on food safety and is a national resource person for the FSSAI. His company works with more than 14,000 customers across the country to ensure safety and hygiene. It is a great privilege to have you amidst us today, sir. So I
Thank
welcome you to this session.
thank you.
So, before I hand over the session to Sir, I would like to request all the members of the audience to please post your questions and queries in the live chat box below so that we can get to them towards the end of this webinar series. Thank you, and over to you, Sir.
Thank you. So, thank you, Simran, for a very warm introduction, and thank you, Foodyaari, for organizing this. I think it's amazing that you guys have created a platform like this, which is, I think, a need of the hour for students and professionals, right? So, I want to start off, sharing something with you all. Give me 1 second. Share. Let me know when y'all can see this. Okay. I'm assuming you all can see my screen. Yes?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, lovely. So the topic was opportunities and challenges of being an entrepreneur. So before I go and tell you about entrepreneurship, let me tell you a little bit about myself, which is normally not a part of my formal introduction as a CEO of Equinox Labs. First, let me tell you about my entrepreneurial journey, right? I have been somebody who started 15 companies till date over the last 20 plus years. I have sold two of my companies. I currently actively run 7 companies. I am spearheading 2 of them myself. I am also an angel investor and a startup mentor. So the reason I'm telling you this, and I'm also telling you, if you see the difference, like started 15, running 7, sold 2. So there's a difference of 6. So many people are like, what happened to the 6? I had to shut them down. They did not work out, right? Before I go on and to the remaining slides, I want to share a quick story about why so many companies, right? And it was when I was about your age, maybe a little younger, around my 18th birthday, when somebody asked me, what do you see yourself doing when you turn 30, or when you by the time you turn 40? Like, just one of my friends, college friends, asking me, and I remember telling them I want to be running 7 companies, and they were like, "That's such a weird thing for a 18-year-old to say," right? And a large group of those friends met me on my 30th birthday, and they said, "Hey, how's that dream of yours coming along?" At that point, I had already 9 companies, and 2 of them had already been sold. And so they were like, fantastic, you achieved your dream. Like, what are you going to do by the time you turn 40? Are you going to, make more companies? Are you going to, make these companies listed? What are you going to do? Oh, I said, by the time I turn 40, I only want 1 company. And by the time I turn 45, I want none company. The reason is, when you're a serial entrepreneur, it completely disrupts your life. It is absolutely crazy to do what I did. And it is not something I recommend anyone to do. It requires tremendous amount of sacrifice on your personal front. Some of it may be worth it, some of it may not be worth it. So before you ever start on the entrepreneurial journey, be really, really sure that that's a path you want to take. And especially if you ever try and become a serial entrepreneur, do keep in mind it's going to come with a lot of stress. There'll be days where you'll not be able to sleep, and it's going to have a very profound impact on your personal life. So I want to start with that disclaimer in mind. I'm not going to make it sound very easy, like, oh, 15 companies, nothing. It has a lot of heartbreaks. I've lost a lot of money. I've burnt a lot of money. I've shut down 6 companies, because they didn't work out. Yes, but out of that, we did have a lot of success. Two of my companies were sold to Wipro. I'm currently running, 7 companies myself, and two of them I'm personally heading. The others are run by teammates of mine, right? So, but that does come with a lot of heartache. So here is my more formal introduction as the CEO of Equinox Labs. I work as a national resource person. I'm a national speaker. I work very closely with FSSAI for a lot of the new initiatives that they've launched. And I'm also author of 2 books, 13 Ways to Protect Yourself as a Consumer and How do you, face an FSFD audit. I also work with more than 500 companies on advising them on their compliances and EHS policies. Before I go ahead, let me give you like a quick 30-second introduction to Equinox Labs so you know where we are coming from. So Equinox is a 15-year-old company. We are focused in the area of water, food, and air testing and food safety auditing. We today have more than 14,000 customers across the F&B and corporate sector, and we work with more than 40,000 restaurants. We are an FSN notified enable accredited organization. We have ISO 9000, 14,000, 45,000. We've trained over 50,000 people in the area of food safety, FSSAI, and COVID-19. We today have more than 700 food safety auditors across 150 cities. It makes us one of the largest auditing companies in the country. And we have more than 250 experts in the area of water, food, and air working for us in-house. We are an award-winning organization. We've won Operational Excellence Award from SPGen. We've won 100 Most Impactful Healthcare Leader Award twice in 17 and 18. We won the Food Safety Leadership Award in Singapore. And last year, just as the lockdown began, we were also awarded as a great place to work. So when I started, I want to quickly tell you, let me start with the good, right? So let me talk about the opportunities that you have as an entrepreneur, right? If you ever decide to take the entrepreneur journey, many of you all may be students, some of you may already started off your careers, and you may be thinking about entrepreneurship, or maybe it's a future goal for you. But let me tell you what entrepreneurship offers you. And then I'll also later on tell you what are the different challenges that can come along with it. So one of the first thing entrepreneurship offers you or expects of you is leadership. It is, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, 99.9% of the time, you have to be a great leader. I have met so many successful entrepreneurs, and all of them that I have met have been fantastic leaders where they've gotten millions, if not billions of people to follow their dreams, right? And make those dreams reality. So being a leader is very, very critical. I'm going to talk about a few. So I was actually going to skip to this. Then I remember I had created a very nice slide for when I was talking to one of the colleges, and there was just a 2-hour session only on leadership. So I created a very nice, very small PowerPoint, but it went on for 2 hours. I'm going to finish it in 5 minutes. Don't worry. About want to be a good leader. What are the different qualities? So I mean, even if you do not take an entrepreneurship route, right? And if you're working somewhere, leadership is something that I personally believe that you don't need to have a title. You don't have to be given a position or a designation to be a leader. Leadership is something that you can display irrespective of who you are. You could be an intern and display leadership. And I've seen vice presidents of companies not displaying leadership, right? So it's very important. If you want to be successful, you have to be a leader. Many people say leadership is, natural born. Some people are just born leaders. I think that's absolute rubbish, right? Some people can, be speaking well. They can have so many different attributes which they're born with. But leadership is one of the traits we can easily cultivate. You have to focus on it. You have to really work on it. And it is something that you can develop and showcase. So one of the first things I'll talk about, what are the 7 qualities of a successful leader? This, by the way, is a separate presentation. You can see there's a whole change in scenery because all these slides, you are going to see different lines. Because when we were creating this, I wanted to create something fun with my marketing team. So I said, hey, can we just have 7 slides, 7 words, and that's it? I don't want anything else. And they said, can we have animal photos? Somebody was into animal photography at that time from my team. So we said, why not? We said, which animal represents a leader? And I think lion was the most obvious choice. So all the photos you're going to see in the next 7 slides are going to be leaders. So what are the 7 qualities of being a successful leader? The first is having a vision, right? Now, something that is very alarming is many people expect a leader to have his own vision. Now, some people are good at math, some people are not good at math, some people are good at finance, some people are not good at finance. Some people are good at having their own vision, and some people are not good. They may not have their own vision, and it is okay. Many people say that, oh, you need to have vision of yourself, and you have to have this very great vision that you've created for yourself. What I personally believe is you can actually find somebody else's vision and make it your own. You may follow that vision, but in your own right, you yourself also become a leader, because you will then share that vision with a bunch of other people who will get excited about it, right? So whether you're a leader or a follower, it doesn't matter, as long as the vision is something that drives you. Now, what is a vision? A vision is how you'd want the world to be. In your world, what should be there, what shouldn't be there. So let me give you my vision. My vision is making food, water, and air in India safe. As simple as that, right? Everything I do works towards this. My other companies are in the water space, they're in the air space, right? We have products, we have services, all in and around the space, because that is a vision that I have. That is my purpose. I want food, water, and air in India to be safe. That's my personal purpose, which I have made as a vision for our own organization. So for Equinox Labs, if you ask any Equinoxian, hey, what is the vision of the company? What's your vision? You will hear that, hey, we want to make water, food, and air safe in India. It's very specific. Water, food, and air safe in India, not globally, not anywhere else. We won't start here. Maybe afterwards, maybe once we say, oh, we've done food, water, in is in India, it's safe. We can then expand our vision to something bigger. But right now, it started very clearly with food, water, and air in India. Right. So that was my vision. But not having a vision is important, but sharing your vision, whether it's your own or somebody else's, is even more important. Right. One of the first mistakes I made as an entrepreneur is I had a vision and I did not share it with my team. I kind of kept it inside as to tell them bits and pieces. I never really shared, like, hey, what is this all about? Where are we working? What are we working towards? We know what we're going to do a month from now, but what are we going to 5 or 10 years from now? Right? What is the difference we want to make in the world? Right? What is that new world that I'm talking about? I didn't show this to a lot of my teammates earlier on, and I realized that that was a big mistake. So anyone following down the entrepreneurship path, anyone developing leadership, having that vision is very, very critical. That vision can be very personal, like I want to be a manager in 5 years is also okay to be a vision. It's nothing selfish, right? But that's a vision. You see yourself in that vision. Another very powerful technique, a person called Robin Sharma, I don't know if you've heard of him or not, is a very famous author. He's written books like The Monk Who Sold the Ferrari, and he's a motivational speaker. I had the privilege of spending half a day with him. It cost me an arm and a leg, but completely worth it, right? So he taught me two things. The first one was, when you have a vision, share it. And two, more importantly, he's like, write it down, like not type it out, not type it and print it. He's like, write it with your hand, draw it, whatever it is. But you should be able to see it on your mirror, in your bathroom mirror, in your car, in your office. You should be able to visualize your future, right? Like, visualize it. Should be in writing. And if it's a, like, I about 10 years ago, I was imagining a building for Equinox, right? Before that, we used to work out of these small little offices in the center of Mumbai. We started with one office, then we got a second one, a third one, a fourth one, fifth one. We were growing, but they were the tiny little pigeonhole offices, like 300-400 square feet offices, right? All across a building. It wasn't this big thing, and I always wanted this big thing. I wanted Equinox Center. And this is like 10 years ago. And so we hired, at that time, we didn't have the funds to make one, right? But I remember hiring an artist, and I kind of explained to him what the building would look like. And he made a painting for me, and which was my wallpaper, right? On my computer, all my computers had that as the wallpaper. And I shared that with everyone, saying, hey guys, I want to build this. I want to build Equinox Center, right? And this is how it's going to look. And 8 years ago, we actually launched Equinox Center. It's a 20,000 square foot facility. And if you ever compare that photo with the actual building, it's a carbon copy, right? It is so important to have that in front of your eyes, right? And I remember the day we inaugurated it, one of my vice presidents, he came to me and he said, hey, this vision has come true. What's the next one? What's your next wallpaper? I was wondering, what are you saying? Like, what's your next wallpaper? He was asking me, like, what's the next vision? Like, what are we working towards? We wanted a building. We got the building. Like, what are we working towards? Right. So now we're working towards Equinox Tower, by the way, which is halfway through. Right. So my point is, it's very, very critical for having that vision, being able to visualize it. If you close your eyes, you should be able to see. I'm not just saying an artwork, whatever it is. If it's you as a manager, you should be able to close your eyes and visualize what you are as a manager. What kind of traits do you have? What kind of personality do you have? What are you wearing? How are you treating people? Extremely important, right? So it's very, very important to have a vision and share it. The next one is build your team. As a leadership, you need to have a team that you can trust, right? You need to have a team that sees the vision with you, shares the vision, shares the enthusiasm with you, and it's very, very critical that you select the right people. This is one of the best opportunities that you will have as an entrepreneur and as a leader. Now, if you're working somewhere, you may not always be in a place where you can choose, who's going to work with you. But as an entrepreneur, you can actually choose every single person that works in your company, right? Today, we have 1,000+ people across all the different companies. But every single person I interview at least for 2 minutes, 1 minute. I will spend that time because I want to know who's entering my family. I want to know who's the next Equinox, right? It's very critical that I want to know that there are very few people who are involved in Equinox. I'm not involved at all. And but if I can grow a little faster, it doesn't permit me. But then on their first day, there'll be 10, 20 new people joinees. I will, get them on a video call and get to know each one of them. When I interact with people, what I'm trying to find is what is their goal, what is their 5-year goal, and in my mind, I'm like, hey, how can I help him get to his goal? Because if I can help him or her get to their goal, they will help us get to our goal. And there have been times where I've seen amazing people, but I've also seen that, hey, I can't help you get to your goal. And I've told them that during interviews, like, I know hiring this person will benefit me in the short run, but will not benefit them in the long run. And I've told them this specifically and told them, please don't take this job. You're very well qualified. I would love to have you. I know you'll add value, but it's not going to take you towards your goal, right? It's very important that as a leader, you share your vision with them, you share your core values with them, you share where you're going, and you also want to share with them where you're taking them, right? It's very critical. So again, building that team is absolutely important. And if you have not, if you're not in a place where you can choose your own team, the people around you, how can you help them get to where they want to go? Trust me, they will go out of the way to help you to help, where you want to go, right? So just as simple as that. The next part is, as a leader, you want to solve a problem, right? uh, whatever the problem is, and you may be working somewhere, you're an entrepreneur, you want to be able to solve the problems that you face today. If you're building a product, you're building a service, you need to go find a real life problem to solve and then try different ways of solving that problem. So it's very critical that you're open to feedback, you talk to customers, you talk to your teammates about the problem, what are the possible options of solving the problem, and never ever assume that a person with more experience will have a better idea. That is one of the most base wrong assumptions you can make. I have selected ideas by interns over ideas by vice president in the same room, right? Same room, ideas were thrown up, I've named a company with what my intern gave me versus what my VP gave me, because I believe in something called as meritocracy. Meritocracy means the idea stands on its own merit. There is nothing to designations and hierarchy. It is purely on its own merit, right? So your, the need or the solution to the need can actually come from anywhere. So keep that in mind. Test your solution, right? So whatever solutions you have, there's never a wrong answer, right? So in Equinox, we have this fundamental of make your own mistakes and make them quickly, right? But learn from them, right? So whenever anyone suggests something like, oh, can we try this? Then answer, and again, 99% of the time is, why not? Go test it out, right? They're like, oh, instead of this, can we try that? Like, we've been doing this, we want to try that. Okay, go test it out. Come back and tell me what happened. Oh, instead of SMSs, can we try WhatsApp videos? Go test it out, right? So testing your solution becomes absolutely critical, and people don't never make people afraid of making mistakes. If that culture sets into your organization or in yourself or your own team, that hey, if I make a mistake, I'm going to be in trouble, innovation is going to go out the window. People are just going to quietly do what they're told. You will not see innovation, right? My team every day makes mistakes, and these mistakes cost us, and I'm not even joking, every day we will lose 1 to 2 to 3 lakh rupees because of mistakes we made, right? But we make 10 times more because of the innovations we did when we were trying new things, right? Very important that do not feel bad when you fail. Do not instill fear in your people from trying something new. You as a person should be okay trying something new. When you're in your new job, and if you find the work environment is very restrictive and it's not allowing you to try new things, and you are a person who wants to try new things, leave that work environment, right? You have a boss so in Equinox, we don't use the word boss, we don't use the word manager, we use the word leader, right? So if you're a leader, is pressing you down and keeping your creativity closed, leave them, right? So you would have heard this saying that people don't leave companies, they leave their bosses. That's 100% true, right? You will have to work with somebody, you should want to work with somebody who will raise you higher, will give you new opportunities, will open your mind, will not stifle it. So choose your leaders. Even within a company, be a leader that you wish you had. So this is a quote which I loved reading somewhere, that be the leader that you wish you had. So when you're growing up and you want a leader and you may not have one, your first boss may be horrible, and you're like, oh, I wish he was like somebody else. As you grow and you mature and you have your teams and you have, if you become an entrepreneur, you have a company, be the leader that you wish you had, right? Very, very critical to be able to do that. Next is constantly innovate, right? If you do not innovate in a organization or as a person, you will stagnate. And in today's day and age, if you stagnate, you're not going to grow. So I think you should be constantly innovating yourself as a person. And the way to do that, right? As an entrepreneur, you will try this with different products, different services, different ways of marketing, different strategies. But as an individual, the way you innovate is you learn something new every day and you try something new every day. It may sound, oh, that is so difficult. It's actually not. With your mobile, you have access to all the information in the world. If you ever wait around that, oh, somebody will come and train me, trust me, you're not going to be successful in life. So many people who I know within my own organization today who are successful, they've never ever waited around that somebody will come and save me, somebody will come and train me, somebody will come and do this. Nobody may be coming and doing anything. If they come, great. Most of the time, nobody's going to come. You're on your own. You need to figure it out, right? If you want to learn, you can learn anything. There are hundreds and thousands of websites, and many people, I can't afford it. YouTube, you can afford, it's free, right? Go to YouTube, you can learn to make a pin, piano, bomb, anything you want. You want to learn how to do painting? I have learned painting. I've been wanting to learn painting for a long time. I didn't get a chance. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I said, you know what? Screw it. I have some time. I'm going to take out half an hour every day at night and an hour on Sundays, and I'm going to learn to paint. And guess what? I did. Not spending a single dime on any tutorial. YouTube taught me how to paint. Digital art, I didn't have the canvas and everything. I bought a software. Digital art, I learned, and I'm actually quite decent, right? 3 weeks in, it's looking pretty professional, right? But point is, you have to choose to learn every single day. There is a website that I use. It's called I Done This. I Done This. It's a very simple concept. It's free. Every day when you sign up for it, it will send you an email like, what have you done today? The way I use it is I reply back to it by saying, what have I learned today? The habit that I have seen many people do and which I also follow is I do not fall asleep if I haven't learned something new that day. If you want to be able to innovate, you can't innovate without learning new things. You can't innovate without trying new things, right? So the basis of innovation is learning. If that end of the day you can't type anything that email, you're like, I've not really learned anything. Don't sleep. Go learn something. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Go learn something. Type it out. Type it out with your own hands and send it out. And now you can go and say, okay, I've learned something. You can go to sleep, right? The beauty of this is this service automatically will bring you back a random learning from a year ago, 2 years ago. It's like, how Google Photo like kind of brings you old memories. Exact same thing, but for ideas and for learnings, right? Fantastic tools that change the way I learn and I work. So definitely go try that. Next is network. So I don't know if you've heard, your net worth is determined by your network. Networking is something that you have to be really good at, and a great tool that allows you to do this is called LinkedIn. As you come out of college and universities and you're getting into the real world, if somebody searches your name and if your Facebook and Insta show up before your LinkedIn, you may want to reevaluate how you spend your time, right? If you search my name, I can guarantee anything. First, my LinkedIn is going to show up, right? I use LinkedIn like a beast, right? Anyone I want to connect with, I will connect. Anyone I want to connect with, I will connect, right? Do not feel shy. What is the worst thing they will do? Not accept the invitation. Okay, that's okay. They'll block you. Not really, doesn't matter. Nobody's going to take the time to block you or do anything. They will just ignore you, right? So if you want to connect with somebody, just connect with somebody. Write an interesting message inside, because if we just say invite and there's nothing written inside, the chances are you may get ignored. But if you write something interesting inside, now the interesting inside could be something that the person has seen. You've seen the guy's video, you've seen her doing something, whatever it is, right? The chance of you getting accepted will goes up like 10 times. So use LinkedIn to stay connected. When you meet people, introduce one to each other. So when you're networking, help other people achieve something, right? Connect with somebody. Are you the kind of person, if you see a message on WhatsApp saying, hey, I need help with something, do you go out of your way and help that person? You're a natural networker. If you don't, you're not a natural networker, but don't stress. It's okay. It's a skill you can learn, right? Till 8th grade, I was one of the most shy kids there was. I had like 2 friends and that's it. I wouldn't go and talk to a third person, right? But when 9th came around, 10th came around, I realized that, you know what, if I stay in this little shell, I'm not going to make much of myself. So I literally forced my way out of it. And now I can go talk to anybody. You point me to anybody in a room, I can go and have a conversation with them. It doesn't matter, right? Idea is you need to be okay with getting a no from somebody. The hesitation of going and talking to a random person, try that next time once the lockdown is over. If you're at an airport or a movie theater or a bus stop, whoever is next to you, just start up a conversation. That is an art by itself. Go read about it. That I can spend an entire day on networking, but I'm going to leave it at that. But remember this, your net worth is determined by your network. So network hard. Last but not the least, I love this image, by the way, right? Is care. As a leader, you need to care. You need to care about your clients. You need to care about your teammates. You need to care about your ecosystem, right? And when you go out of the way and you show care, trust me, magical things happen, right? I'll give a very good example of caring about your client. Uh, 3-4 years ago, one of my kids wasn't well, and at like 4:30 in the morning AM, I call up the 24-hour chemist in my area, and I say, hey, I need a thermometer, I need crocin, baby crocin, I need this and this. The guy said, sir, 15 minute mein aa jayega aapke paas, right? And at 4:30, I am half asleep, but this guy had like, yes, good morning, sir. What do I do? Like, kya karo aapke liye? Like in Hindi. But, he was all excited. And this thing, when I said crocin, obviously, he got a little serious. Uh, 15 minutes later, everything reached my home. I got I checked my son's temperature, gave him the medicine. At 5 o'clock, this guy calls back. And I'm wondering, why is he calling back? And then I picked up, I said, ha, pahunch gaya. He's like, ha, great, sir, pahunch gaya na. Then he asked, and I was like, what? And I said, yeah, hey, now he's fine. I'm checking his temperature again. But such a small thing. He doesn't have to do that. He's a night compounder at a chemist shop. He doesn't have to go and ask some random guy on the phone, how is your kid's health? Right? But that one little act just completely changed how I look at that shop, the way I look at the guy, right? Every time I'll order from that chemist. I don't care if they charge more, don't give me discounts, whatever. I know another guy, not 24/7, but they'll give me 10% discount. This guy doesn't give me any discount. I will go out of my way and order from him, right? So Suresh, the guy's name is, I will call and say, Suresh, I'll talk to him. How are you? I know he has kids now. I know he has a wife. I know he has kids. His daughter's doing something. But that little thing showed me care, and that has just made me a fan for life for this guy. If he tomorrow goes to a different chemist shop, trust me, I will go with him wherever he goes. I have his personal number, by the way. So he says, sir, kabhi ye nahi laga to mere number pe phone karo. Main bhi nahi rahunga, to I'll get you whatever you need from wherever, right? My point is that shows that you care, and trust me, it goes a very, very long way. If you display care for your teammates, your clients, and your ecosystem, it is just fantastic. It's just a very nice way of being, right? So that is about the leadership part. The next opportunity that you get, by the way, as an entrepreneur, is you get to chase your passion, right? Whatever your passion is. And if you're starting something new, trust me, you want to be passionate about that topic, because the amount of work that it takes to become successful, and if you have to put that without the passion, it's going to cost you so much stress that it's not going to be worth it, right? If you're passionate about something and you put in the work, at the end of the week, month, year, you feel that it's worth it, right? And if you're working very hard, you're away from your family and you're just stressed out, then you're probably not as passionate about it. See, you can get stressed for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, but if you're spending weeks and months in stress, that's probably not an area you're passionate about, or you're not running a company the right way, right? So the beauty of being an entrepreneur is you get to chase your passion, right? You get that, you have that vision and the passion just talking about, you can make that a reality. Next is freedom. Now, by freedom, please don't misunderstand when I use the word freedom with entrepreneur as freedom of time. That is something that may be a myth, especially if you're a startup, but you do get a freedom of choice, you get a freedom of thought, you get the freedom to decide what kind of an impact you want to have in the community and the ecosystem around you. So that you can definitely choose, and that is something you can definitely see how you want to bring that freedom. How do you want to use that freedom as an entrepreneur? There are not too many people who will correct you, right? So you may have a wrong thought, you also have freedom of making mistakes, and which is okay. It is okay to fail, right? I have an entire topic on failure, so I'm not going to go into failure right now. But however, that freedom is something you need to use well. Something which I don't think I've covered over here in slides, but I want to mention is, while you have all this freedom, you need to have an accountability mechanism, right? One downside of being an entrepreneur is nobody's checking in on you. Nobody's checking on your progress. If you're not funded, if you don't have a board, you're not borrowed money from somewhere, nobody's checking in on you. You're kind of on your own, and you have to determine the pace of growth. You have to see whether you're coming to office on time, because as a boss or as the owner of the company, nobody's going to check how many hours you work. You're not clocking in, clocking out. So you need to be accountable to somebody. My way of doing that was, since I ran multiple companies, was having mentors. It is extremely important you find mentors in all the different aspects of business, right? Many people look at what I've done and they're like, oh, you're such a successful entrepreneur. Yes and no, but no matter of what success, anything. However, I today have 8 different mentors that I go to for different things. Some of the mentors I may speak to once in a month. Some of the mentors I may speak to once in a quarter. There are some mentors that I may speak to 2 minutes in an entire year, right? But those 2 minutes are valuable to me like anything else, because I literally tell them, hey, here's the situation. Here are the 2 options. I'm planning to take option A. What do you think? And the person will just go like A, B, C, like bullets, and help me make a informed decision whether I do something or don't do something. If I'm on the right path, they help me validate that concept. They ask me questions that make me think. I have a mentor who doesn't answer me. I call him Socrates. When I ask him a question, he asks me another question. That was the Socrates way of doing things. So he literally, that's his thing. He just asks me questions, but those questions make me think. I have another mentor who, anytime I go with a vision, he will take that vision and he'll make it broader, right? That's what he does. He's like, why this? Why aren't you thinking this? And I'm like, okay. And literally, that's his job. That's what he does for me. He may spend 10-15 minutes with me, but he just broadens my vision. They're like, oh, you're planning to achieve this in this much time. Why not in this much time? Why not at this scale? Like, why are you saying this much growth in these many years? Right? Why not double the growth in half the time? Like, what is stopping you? So that what is stopping you, literally, that's one of his punchlines. Like, what is stopping you? And it gets me thinking, like, what is stopping me? And a lot of my innovations, a lot of my ideas, a lot of my aggressiveness in business comes from talking to this mentor for 10 minutes, right? Having different mentors for different aspects of your life are critical. Today, as a company, we are killing it in the PR game, right? We have a fantastic PR team. We are in news and almost every day, right? And the reason is, I have a PR mentor who has taught me some things which I spent lakhs of rupees on and I didn't learn, right? And I wasted a lot of money. And I went to my PR mentor, and she is the tech princess of India. Her name is Devita Saraf, a fantastic human being, right? In 5 minutes, she taught me something that changed the way Equinox does PR and the way I do PR. And my entire team now follows that method, and we are able to get PR whenever we want, right? Literally 5 minutes. I was one of the youngest people to have a column in Economic Times. Like, no white hair. Like, now I have a little white hair, but that time I didn't have white hair. And I had a column in Economic Times, right? So small things that mentors can teach you, you will not, I mean, you will learn those things, but you'll probably take decades to learn that, right? So one of my favorite quotes is, a moment's insight can be more valuable than a lifetime of experience, right? And that quote was written with mentors in mind, that those mentors can provide you that moment's insight, right? And it's invaluable. So definitely go find mentors. Next is, you get to choose your own team. Like I mentioned in leadership, and that's another opportunity as an entrepreneur. You get to select the people you work with, right? Now, this is a very, very crucial part. You want to select, like, what kind of people do you want to select? Now, when you're starting off, the question is, do I select people smarter than me? Do I select people who will just follow what I say? I always say, you know what, you need a mix of both. You need a certain set of people who will do what you tell them to do, and you need a certain set of people who will challenge you, who will have their own ideas, and you have to be okay with it, right? A big setback that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs take right, is a 3-letter word that I've seen companies sink and entrepreneurs sink because of a 3-letter word: ego, right? Ego collapses companies. Ego collapses friendships. It collapses complete organizations because somebody did not want to listen to somebody else's advice because they think that they know more. Any successful entrepreneur you talk to will tell you that you can learn from anybody in the team, right? If somebody is giving you feedback, it can be anyone in the company. I have had interns giving me feedback on day one of them in the organization, right? First day, imagine you're an intern in a company, you're talking to the CEO of the company, and you're giving him feedback on something that he can improve. Now that takes a lot of guts. I have people who did that with me. Guess what? Where they are today? Today, many of them are my process leads. They have 50, 100, 200 people reporting to them, right? Because they have guts, they give feedback, and it is okay. They realize that they're in a work atmosphere where they will not be yelled at and screamed at, like, how dare you tell a CEO what to do. Yes, but the person is right and the person is wrong. It's okay. I'll say, hey, I did this because of A, B, C, D, E. They don't get like, oh, that's not your place. Right. So never, ever, ever become that person that tells people, oh, you don't give me feedback, or I know more than you. If you ever land up using that line, like, I know more than you, or my designation is, and if you ever see yourself throwing out a designation to push your weight around, you're probably not a very good leader and you're probably not going to be a very good entrepreneur. Right. So learn to negotiate with people, learn to share with them why you want them to do something instead of just telling them that do this. Tell them that, hey, we need to achieve this, I need your help. You will see the difference of what that makes, right? I have teams that will work till 12, 1, 2 o'clock at night. Not because I told them you have to work till 2 o'clock at night. They know what we're trying to achieve together. I'm like, hey, we have this tomorrow and I need help making this. Can you help me? Person say, yeah, of course I'll help you. Right? Do you see this fantastic presentation? This was put together by one teammate of mine in literally like 1 hour, 2 hours in the middle of the night. Right? Why? Because I shared with her, like, hey, I have this thing, I have this slides, but I know I don't have a nice looking presentation I want to put together. I sent some points. She spent 2 hours in the middle of the night to make it for me. Why? Because she knows that, hey, you know what, a good looking presentation makes a big difference. I could have just had this word on the screen, right? Without all this nice graphics and all. I could have just said, choose your own team in the middle of the screen, white screen. I could have done that if I didn't have the time to sit and make it. But somebody took the time and the effort to make a beautiful looking presentation because they believe the same things I believe, which is what a great impression goes a long way, right? If the same thing, by the way, had just the word choose your own team in the middle, I could have still communicated the same points to you. It would have been a little less impressive. You would have been like, okay, this person doesn't really, you know, care much about aesthetics, and which is okay. But we as a company, we as a brand, and me as a person cares about these things, right? You'll never see a screen with just the word choose your team written on it, and it will always be nice looking. You saw the little lines, and a lot of effort goes behind it. So we have a team that believes in the same thing that I do, right? And that's why we are able to do great things. So when you're choosing your own team, make sure that they believe in the same things you believe in. You'll see the miracle of difference that output you'll get from them, right? Choose your own strategy. You can make your own mistakes. You can figure out if you're trying to do something, right? And when you start a journey as an entrepreneur, you're trying to do something. Now, you could be doing this for the first time. Nobody in the country has done, nobody in the world has done this, and you're the first one to do it, very rare, right? Or somebody else has done it. If you're in the me too ran business, me too ran is you're also doing something somebody else is doing. You're not the first of that kind. What is the strategy that you're going to take to make yourself different, right? The example I love to use here is Just Dial, right? My friend VSS Money, he started Just Dial. He had 50,000 left with him, and he put all that money on one thing: a phone number, 888888888, right? Because when he was entering that space, he realized that there were a lot of these phone directories, right? First, we had those physical directories. There may be many of you in the audience today who may not know the physical directories are, because when I asked them, they're like, what is a physical directory? In one of the webinars I was on, somebody like, what is a physical, like, yellow book? Then I just realized that I'm much older than you guys, right? So the physical directory space, they used to have a number, which was a telephone number, but you had to find the directory to see the number, and then you call the number and ask. If you don't want to look and all, go to the directory and find the number. What Money did is he invested 50,000 rupees on one phone number, 8 times 8, because if I tell you this once, you don't have to remember the number again. And that literally changed the game. And then obviously he's done 100 other things to make it right. And Just Dial today is the largest in the space. Every other phone directory has been wiped off the screen. because the way he's deployed his strategy. So strategy can become extremely important, right? So using the example of Equinox Labs, we are not the first lab, right? We are probably the 100th lab or 1000th lab in the country. But today we may be a little bit more successful than some of the other labs. Why? Is the strategy we chose, the paths we did, decided to go down, how we marketed ourselves, how we positioned ourselves, the way we were able to present this to our customers, how we found customers, how customers found us. That was a difference, right? The kind of peoples we chose, the kind of culture that we have in a company. All these things are a part of strategy. And when you have your own company, you can choose your own strategy, right? You can create your own product, you can create your own service, right, the way you want to. You can have a vision of it in your own mind, share it with the team, and you can do something a little different than what is being done in the industry. So now these are the advantages of having your own company. Is you can create your own product, you can create your own services, right? So while we are talking about all the good, and I think we are more than halfway through, now let me actually run you through a few of the challenges, right? By the way, do you have any questions? I'm going to pause for like 5 seconds. If there are any questions, let me know. No? Should I continue? Questions at
Yes,
end?
sir, we'll get to them
Okay,
towards the end.
perfect. Okay, great. So some of the challenges that you're going to face as an entrepreneur, and I think this is one of the biggest ones, is handling failures, right? You are going to fail. I can give it to you in writing. Whatever you do, you're going to fail somewhere. It could be a small failure, it could be a big failure. You're going to fail. How you handle yourself when you fail is going to be the difference between success and permanent failure, right? Many people say, what is the opposite of success? If I ask, many people say failure. I said wrong. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a part of success. If you want to be successful, you're going to go through failure, right? So what is that trait that people need to have to be able to handle failure? And one of the things that I'm teaching my own kids is something called grit. Grit, grit. What is grit? Grit is not losing enthusiasm, right? If you fail. The way I think Theodore Roosevelt describes grit is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, right? It is okay to fail. You are going to fail, right? It is, if you don't learn something from that failure, then you really lost something. And if you're not able to recover from a failure, then you've lost something even bigger, right? Most entrepreneurs give up when they see their first signs of failure, when they see difficult times. They're like, how do we come out through this? And they give up. There is a Chinese proverb which says, fall down 7 times, get up 8, right? You have to keep getting up every time you fall down. But this time, when you get up, every time you get up, now you're a little bit smarter. Okay, that was a mistake. And as an entrepreneur, you're not going to everything, and you're going to make mistakes, right? If you have mentors, you will probably make fewer mistakes. If you don't have any mentors or friends from that area, you're probably going to go through some things every entrepreneur goes through, and you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fail. It could be bad hires, it could be bad investments, it could be bad bets on strategies, whatever it is, right? You chose something, the kind of products you have, the way you want to deliver the service, the strategy you chose could be off and you could see failure. And it is perfectly okay for that to happen. There is something called as a pivot, right? Pivot is what you're going down this road, you hit a roadblock, you pivot, right? You go down a different road. So today I was coming down a road, I saw water 5 feet high. I'm like, I mean, I was already in 3 feet high water, 5 feet high, I knew the car wouldn't make it. What did I do? I didn't sit and cry. I pivoted. I took a turn. I took another road where the water was only 3 feet high, right? So it is okay. That was a failure which I experienced today, but it's okay. You took another way. Yes, the car got a little damaged, but what are you going to do? Am I going to sit and cry about it? No. I had to go to the place I had to go to. I had to take my wife for vaccination. So I had to go there. I didn't have a choice. I know there was a cyclone outside, but we got the date for today. We're not going to give that up. In today's date, getting a vaccine is a big thing, right? So I didn't have a choice, but I had to go. I had failure. What do I do? Pivoted. And it's okay. Learn to deal with this. It's going to mean the difference between life and death for your idea and life and death for your company, right? Keep this in mind. Two is finding the right people. This can be another challenge. Remember, I put this as an opportunity as well, that you get to choose your own team, but finding the right people becomes absolutely critical, right? As an entrepreneur, as you grow, as you mature, you're going to realize something, that people will stay in your company not because of the money you pay them. People will stay in the company because of the culture you create, right? So culture is how people treat each other. If they're, when the things are good, when things are bad, how do you celebrate victories? How do you handle failures? within your organization? How do you talk to each other, right? Do you like scream at each other, yell at each other all the time, or once in a while it's okay? I understand people can lose their tempers, and if it's for the betterment of the company, it's actually good friction that I've seen, right? The way I define it with my team is, guys, if you have a fight, and we have lots of fights every day, right? But half an hour later, you're able to sit and have a cup of coffee with that person, then you know that fight was professional, not personal, right? So if you're ever arguing at work, make sure it is a professional argument, never a personal one. The difference is very simple. Instead of saying you made a mistake, if you're supposed to be doing something, you saying, hey, how come this didn't get done? Rather than saying you made a mistake, right? Like, how did this thing break? Right? So always directing a conversation somewhere else to the thing that didn't work rather than a person. I mean, again, now this small little thing is a culture. You'll never hear people pointing a finger at you broke this or you didn't do this. It's like, hey, this was supposed to happen, this didn't happen. That small change in verbiage actually talks about culture, right? Culture is even when nobody's looking, what do you do in a company, right? If you see a cup fallen on the floor and nobody's on the floor and there's a dustbin, do you pick it up and put it in? Right? Or do you just like, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will do it is also culture. You picking up and putting is also culture, right? So create a culture and then hire the people that will fit into that culture. Those people will stay longer, will work harder, and will probably help you get to success much faster. And by the way, in all of this, if you have the right people, you'll have fun while getting in your getting to success. That journey, you'll enjoy the journey when you have the right people in your company. So that also can be a big challenge, but you need to create. We actually call it the culture code at Equinox, right? So when we're looking at people, when I interview people, I'm not talking about their grade and I'm not talking about your project and things that way. I'm actually just talking about the person and seeing it. Will this person? How do I see this person fitting into the organization? Where do I see this person 5 years in my own company? Do I see him 5 years in my own company? If I don't see him 5 years in my own company, I'll share that with him. Like, hey, it looks like you'll be here on for a year because I probably am not going. You'll realize after a year that I can't take you to where you want to go and you leave, right? Which is okay for me, but may not be okay for you. But that again is a part of our culture, right? We share these things very openly. So having core values, very, very important. Having a purpose, vision, very important. Having the culture code, extremely important. And you want to use all this when you're selecting people that you work with. This one is this is a full month of, I can talk on capital and funding. When you're starting a company, it is very important that you be very clear on the amount of fund that you have, the capital that you have, what is your run rate, what is your burn rate. It is very important that you track this, right? Most companies today shut down not because the idea is bad, because they run out of money, right? So it's extremely important as an entrepreneur that you need to know money well, you need to understand it well, or you need somebody on your team who understands it well, right? You may not be the math person, you may not be the finance guy, no problem. One of the co-founders, one of your first hires needs to understand this really well, because the last thing you want to do is you're building a great product or a great service, you're about to launch or you've launched, and suddenly there's no money to pay salaries, there's no money to marketing, there's no money to anything, and you shut down, which is a very horrible way to go. Does that happen in companies? Yes. 8 out of 10 companies that close down is because of money. They run out of money. It's very rarely any other reason. So having a good understanding of capital, a good understanding of funding, where to raise money from, how to raise money. Many of you are, if I'm not mistaken, from the food background, right? I've heard sentiment thrown around, oh, in the food business, you can't really raise money. It's not a thing. Of course, it's a thing. It's very much a thing. In every different kind of business, you can raise money. I know a psychic, right, who's raised money. I know a dating coach out of Singapore that has raised money. I helped her raise that money, right? So you can be literally in any business and you can raise money. Now, when I say raising money from outside, meaning again the same thing, showing your vision, sharing that vision with somebody else and saying, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to come in this with me? And obviously, when a person is investing money, they want a return, and then showing them that, hey, if you give me 1 rupee today, how will I give you 1.5 rupees a year down the line, or whatever that multiplier is, right? Being able to showcase that, being able to build that engine, saying that, hey, I have built a box. If I put a rupee here, 2 rupees falls at the other end. Do you want to put in 10 rupees with me? 20 will fall at the other end, right? So being able to showcase this becomes very critical, and being able to find the right investor, right partner becomes absolutely critical, right? In most of my businesses, we are very much self-funded. In one of my companies, however, I did take on an external investor, right? I had 10 different people chasing me. However, I went to one person And the reason I went to that person is because one of my mentors, and two, at the age of 45, he started something and he went public at the age of 60 or before the age of 60. And starting from scratch, zero, in 15 years, he built a company with a market cap of 3,500 crores. This person knows what he's doing, right? He's in the testing space, not mass space directly, but in the testing space. That is the person I want as my partner. That is the person who will help me broaden my vision, will help me get to where I want to get to faster, right? He's the person I got in when we wanted to grow, right? So selecting the right people for funding becomes absolutely critical. This is when you start a business, you will have your own money. You may borrow from your parents, right? That's typically the first round of funding that is there. Then we call it the FFF round, the family, friends, and fools round, right? This is when your product is still being created. You go to your friends, you go to your family, and any other person. I mean, there's a joke. It's called the fools, right? Who kind of come in and put in small amounts of money. How do you structure that? Do you give them equity right away? Do you give them bonds? Do you give them convertibles? Whatever it is, right? It's very important to understand this world. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you cannot do it without understanding basics of capital, basics of finance, and basics of funding. So spend some time on this. And by the way, none of this is complex. You don't need an MBA in finance to be able to do this. You need 2 hours on YouTube. And I'm not even kidding. You'll understand the basics of finance and you'll understand the basics of funding, right? A deck, like when people say, like, I don't even know how to raise a fund, like what to ask or how do I showcase? Make a simple deck showing the problem that exists in the world, the impact it's having, the solution that you have, and how that's going to make the world a better place, and how this is going to make money. As simple as that, literally a 5-slide deck can help you raise money. It's just you have to go and show it to a lot of people. And here again, you will require a lot of grit. The first person you show it to will reject you, second will reject you, third will reject you. Somebody you're going to find who will be attracted towards this. The big mistake many people make is when they are raising funds, they may take money from anybody. If you're absolutely desperate and if you don't get that money, your company is going to shut down, it is okay. But if you have a little bit of runway left, do not bring on the wrong partner. It can tank your company anyways, right? So something to be very aware of, and something to be wary of. You will want to, again, have mentors in this space who can help you select the right kind of investors, right? I cannot speak more about marketing strategy. Marketing strategy literally defines, makes or breaks a company, right? You may have the best product in the world, but if people don't know about it and people can't find you, and if you can't find your people, it doesn't matter. There is a person I had met in Pune, one of the companies I was working on, but that's a long story, so I'm not going to get into that. The guy is a genius. He has 300 patents to his name. And I'm not even joking. 300 patents to his name, but he cannot market anything. He cannot market literally anything to anybody, right? That's why he is not succeeded. He could be a billionaire rolling in a Rolls Royce. He stays in a 1 bedroom or 250 square foot house in Pune. And in that house, he has all these little tinkering. He has patents that fallen on the floor. Like, the guy doesn't know how to market himself. Genius, absolute genius, but doesn't know how to market, right? We tried doing something with it, it fell apart for some other reason. However, but my point is, I know people who have B grade products, but A grade marketing, and they have succeeded. They're able to get out there very quickly. They're able to create a brand for them very quickly. One of the products that I've seen use marketing really well is a company called Raw Pressery, right? I know Anush from the day he started the company, squeezing juice out of his home, and they built such a fantastic brand around the company, right? The way they went online, the way they got celebrities to endorse them for free, most of the time, was fantastic. Another great brand is Lay 15 by Pooja Dingra, right? She doesn't come from a family of restaurateurs or bakers or anything. The way she's created a brand around herself is fantastic. I love the way she's doing. By the way, she's one of my mentors for PR, right? Her and her social media presence is absolutely mind-boggling, right? I keep telling her, hey, teach me some stuff, right? And she'll keep telling me, okay, do this, don't do this, right? So fantastic. She does fantastic work. But again, the way she markets herself is brilliant. She has a book, she has a this, she has a that. The way she does it, absolutely mind-boggling, right? So it's very important to have the right marketing strategy in place if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur. Next is your problem solving capability. As an entrepreneur, you're going to be facing 100 problems every week. Every day you're going to have 5, 10 different problems. This can also be exciting because never 2 days are going to be the same. Every day is going to be something new. There's going to be a new challenge thrown to you. But how do you solve these problems and how quickly do you solve these problems can again mean the difference between success and failure, right? Time management. Today, I can actually talk about time management and tell you why I say it this way. Till March of 2020, I would never talk about time management because I was not able to manage my time properly. I used to do a lot of things. I used to get a lot of work done. I had 6 different EAs who have tried to manage my time, and all of them failed. COVID-19 has done more for me in terms of time management than a lot of people could. It actually helped me perfect a technique called as time boxing. My day now runs in 30 minutes increments, right? It starts at 9:30, ends at 7:38, sometimes even at 10:30, 11 o'clock, depending on the work I'm doing, but it runs in 30-minute increments. So in a day, just before lunch, 9:30 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11:30, 11:30 to 12, 11 to 11:30, 11:30 to 12, so on and so forth, I already get 7 different pieces of work done before lunch. If you're able to master time management, you can master a lot of things. And look up the word time boxing. I'm not going to spend too much time on, but look at the word time boxing, which is doing things in small increments and focused work. Like at that time, you'll not do anything else, right? Amazing way to do it. But if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, trust me, that is something you need to master, right? Multitasking. You have to be able to multitask as an entrepreneur. You're going to get 100 different things coming at you. You will need to prioritize them. There will be times when you are in a board meeting talking about a 60,000 foot view of the company that 5 years down the line we are going to do this and we are going to do that and da 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 da. The minute you walk out that door, you are now on the ground dealing with one little report, with one little clients, one little query on one little parameter, right? And you should be okay with dealing with that. And 2 minutes later, you're again getting into a meeting and you're at a 30,000 foot view dealing with something else. Multitasking and being able to have a larger vision and being able to share that and being able to come down to the minutest of all details of your business and helping people with that. If you're able to, like I call it zooming in and zooming out, if you're able to do this really quickly, your multitasking is going to become easy for you. But many people find this very hard. I know people are fantastic at this, right? The broad planning and the big processes, and they're fantastic at that, but they're not very good at the minute detailing. And I know a lot of people who are very good at the minute detail, the day to day, but they can't do the big thing on top. But the people who are the best and who grow and who are successful as entrepreneurs are people who are able to do both, right? They can do on the ground work and they can also plan and share. So I call it the 60,000 foot view and on the ground view. You should be able to do both. And sometimes you're zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out very quickly. And if you're able to do that well, right, it's fantastic. Next, most important piece, delegating. It's very important for you to understand what are the things you need to do yourself and what are the things you need to delegate. This also links into the time management piece, right? That most of my time is already planned. Like 90% of my week is already planned, right? On Saturday night, I'll actually look at my entire next week and I'll see what do I want to take out and what do I want to add in. Oh, you know what? This process, which I spend 1 hour on every twice in a week, is running smoothly. I don't need to spend 2 hours on it every week. I'll drop it. Oh, this other thing has been causing problems. Okay, let me do a deep dive. Let me schedule in half an hour with this team. So planning that and delegating work to others and then not monitoring them or not bothering them with it becomes very, very critical, right? So if you hire experts, let them do what they do, get out of their way. If they need help, you step in. If you see they're losing focus, you step in. Otherwise, let them do their work and they'll do fantastic work for you, right? If you hire experts. And if you hired kids or freshers who don't know what they're doing, which is also fine, you need to spend time with them, holding their hand, creating something new, creating a process. But then over time, you'll spend lesser and lesser time with them to a point where you don't need to spend time with them and they will do their work, right? And you just know that the output is coming. You can see the result of it. You don't need to spend time on it. So figuring out what kind of tasks you need to do yourself and what kind of tasks you need to delegate becomes absolutely critical. Growth and sustainability. If your organization needs to succeed, you need to see growth. And if you need to be sustainable, you need to be profitable. Now, there are very, very, very few kind of companies, right, that can survive a negative burn and then suddenly zoom towards profitability. Many people look at a company like Zomato and Swiggy and they're like, oh, they're burning like millions and $100 million loss only. I other day read somewhere one of the companies, I don't remember, Swiggy or Zomato, only $100 million lost compared to last year it was $200 million, right? Uh, Many people are like, how does that work? You know what? Many times for most startups that will not work, right? You will need to be sustainable. You'll need to be profitable because many a times it's your own profit that has to pay for the company. Every time you can't be bailed out by somebody else, right? So many people look at these some startups, the unicorns, and they're like, oh, we are going to do exactly that. You may not, it may not work for you. You have to be extremely smart, and you have to have an extremely large market, and you have to have an extremely large market penetration where you're able to sustain doing that, where that, hey, after a certain curve, your losses are going to curtail and go back up, and you have to have that kind of a runway of funding that has to be there so that you can survive. And most startups that I have seen or worked with will not be able to do that. So again, having growth and sustainability becomes absolutely critical, right? There are times when your company will go in the red, which is perfectly fine. As long as you know it's happening and you know why it's happening and for how long it's going to happen, it's perfectly fine, right? But then you also need to know at what point you stop, right? So every time we do a lot of large bets, there are times I know next 6 months, you know what, this company is going to be in the red. And everyone's like, oh my God, we're losing so much money. Da, 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 da. But the strategy is very clear. Like, hey, we are doing this because of this XYZ reason. And at any given point of time, we have a stop button. We have a cut loss button that, hey, if this loss continues beyond this point and we have not seen this kind of a growth, we cut our losses. We don't end up losing the entire money that we are planning to lose if other some metrics, success metrics are not hit. This is how you will ensure that you don't land up burning too much money, right? But in a startup, be okay to burn money for some time till your product doesn't mature or till your product doesn't take to market, right? I think that kind of brings me to the end of you know uh, my presentation. If you have any questions, now is a great time. And if you all want to stay connected with me, you can see my email address on screen. And more than my email, I am extremely active on LinkedIn. Just Google my name, and my LinkedIn will show up. There's literally only one Ashwin Bhadri in the world, so it should be pretty easy to find me, right? So, but I'm hoping that added value, to you guys, and yeah, I'm hoping that made some sense. That was 1 hour of me
Yes.
talking continuously. Wow. I hope there are some questions.
So there was a lot to take away from this last 1 hour from your digital presence, and even being a digital webinar, it was like very awesome to see the energy that you've put in to create all these slides and to create the content that you've given. So
That's
we
a thank
thank
you to
you.
my team. I didn't make any of the slides. My team does all the slide
Yeah,
works
your
is done by my
team.
team, and they're very good at what they do.
Right, so we could totally see that. So, sir, can we move ahead with the questions?
Yes, please.
So, sir, the first question that we have from our audience, it will be shown on the screen. Five things
Yeah.
an entrepreneur should never do in his or her journey. Not just five, any
Okay.
number of things
Five
you.
things. Okay, that's I'm now have to remember when I count. So 5 things you never want to do as an entrepreneur is first, never break anybody's trust, right? Uh, the reason is trust takes months, years to build, but seconds to break, right? So never break anybody's trust. Two, don't borrow money you can't pay back, right? It's very important that you never ever borrow money you can't pay back. It becomes very critical that because many a times that leads to loss of friends. And third, technically and if possible, don't borrow money from your friends, right? You will lose that friend for sure. Unless you're very successful and able to pay them back, you will lose your friend. So as a principle, I've never borrowed money from my friends. Not because of any other reason. They're great people, but I never wanted that to. Fourth is undercommit, over deliver, right? So never do the other way around where overcommit, under deliver. That's not going to last very long. And last but not the least is don't not spend money on marketing. I know so many companies, amazing products, beautiful services, but they don't market well, and so that's a sin, literally, as a market. I mean, as an entrepreneur, always market really well, and you need to know how to market yourself. Somebody who knows how to market, it's very very critical that you have that as a this thing. So never not do anything, never not market. So that would be my 5 things that you don't do as an entrepreneur.
Right, sir. So it definitely answers Rosie's question practically. So moving ahead, sir, we've covered this point, but more insights on this. What are the key tips to look into while choosing a person to enter? into your team?
Okay. So I think the first thing I look at when I'm hiring anyone at Equinox is first is do I trust this person, right? And two, will this person add value to the organization? Three, will the organization add value to him? And the fourth is, will this person fit into the work culture that we've created? Right? It's very important that we find people who fit into the culture. For a simple reason is I've seen so many people, and by seen I've hired so many people, and that has been my mistake. They are fantastic performers. They were really good people. Like they outperformed. You gave them a target, they'll overshoot the target, but they were not great people to have in the team. Other people didn't want to work with them, right? That's not the kind of people you want to have. At least, I mean, that's at least something I followed at Equinox. So, and by the way, I'm saying all this, Gyan, I have hired a lot of wrong people. Let me also go out and say that, right? However, over time, we have fixed it. Sometimes a little too late, right? It's very rare that we let people go, but whenever we have done that, it's probably been because the person wasn't. It's nothing to do with the person. The person was a great person. They just didn't fit into the work culture at Equinox. They probably didn't fit into the strategy that we've developed, right, over time. And many a times, you know what, when we're letting them, I actually tell them that, hey, this was my mistake, right? Because I hired you. It's my mistake that I have to let you go. And, I mishired. It's nothing to do with you. And everyone, by the way, we've had fantastic people at Equinox. And it's many a times, it's not in the person's fault. He or she's built differently, right? I didn't identify that earlier on, and I onboarded them too quickly. And later on, we realized that they want a good fit in the work culture. So having people, fit into your work culture is something you want to look at. So another way I look at it is, would I want to spend time with this person every day, right? Would I want to spend half an hour, because again, half an hour time increments? Would I want to spend half an hour with this person every day? The answer is yes. Fantastic. Hire the person, right? Hire for will, you can train for skill. So hire great people. You can train anyone to do anything. Trust me on that. I've had people who have started in as a junior in HR, but today lead a team of 200 people. I've had interns who are today head of technology. The guy doesn't know the first T of technology. I've had people who had nothing to do with a certain thing, but today they're doing fantastically well. I have a typist who's one of my best salespeople, right? So I know people who have literally started at the age of 18. Like I remember telling HR when I hired this girl as a typist, please check her, birth certificate. They said, why? I said, I don't think she's 18. And she had literally turned 18 and a few days old. She started as a typist, right? And 6 years later, she's one of my top salespeople, right? And literally, she started as a typist. And within months, she got into sales because that's something she was passionate about, right? So again, hiring the right people and making sure that the right people grow within your organization. That's absolutely critical. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Very interesting instances you've used to answer these questions. So, moving ahead, we have a question from Rohan Bhure. He asks, how did you handle your first failure and how are you looking towards it now?
Okay. So the first failure was devastating, right? It was absolutely devastating. I had started a BPO in the middle, and I used to sit up in the middle of the night and call up companies in the US and say that, oh, I'll do work for you here, and blah, blah, blah. I wasted a year and a half of 4 hours a night, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., trying to create that BPO, and it failed miserably. Right? It was at the day I had to pull the plug on. It was devastating. I'm like, oh my god, I've spent so much time, and how am I going to, like, how am I seeing myself as a serial entrepreneur? Maybe I should just stick to one company and da 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 da. Da. All these thoughts went through my mind for one night. Right? Second day, I was going to start cribbing and crying. One of my friends came and said, "ठीक है, boss, it's okay, na? Like you slap one thing and it's going well. What the hell are you crying about?" Right? Today, however, I do have a BPO and KPO, which is doing fantastically well. That's a separate story because I learned so much during that time, that failure, that I applied in my other businesses, right? So the way you want to handle a failure, the first time you fail, is to say, first you have to allow yourself saying that, you know what, I don't know everything and I made a mistake and it's okay. Or I spend my time on this and it's okay. It's okay, it didn't work, right? Even today, when I start something new, it could be a new project, it could be a new company, right? In my mind, I know that there is a chance it may fail, and I'm okay with that. However, that's not the output I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for it to be a success. I will put in my heart and soul in making it a success. But if it's going to fail, I've already made up my, like, I've prepared my mind, conditioned my mind to see, what, it's okay to fail. And many of the time, these are my own ideas and they don't work. And it's okay to have ideas that don't work. Some of these ideas are early, they're too early for their time. I'll give another example of failure. I'd created this product 8.5 years ago called Hygiene Shield. It was a concept that we would audit restaurants and we would put up the shield, saying Hygiene Shield on it. And it was a miserable failure. I don't even think we sold in double digits. Like we sold like 9 or 8 or something of these, and I had to shut it down, right? And I'd invested so much time, money, and effort into creating this product, and I was like devastated. Like when this happened, I'm like, what? It's okay, take it. It didn't work. It's fine. Maybe I didn't market it properly, whatever. I just later on realized it was too early for its time. Today, we partnered with Zomato, Swiggy, Dine Out, and we have audited over 40,000 restaurants, right? What did we do? We took the same concept of Hygiene Shield. It's just that we didn't give the shield. It is they giving the shield because they were able to give that hygiene rating and audience, which we were not able to do, right? By me just giving you a shield and you putting it in your restaurant is not bringing revenue in. But having that little shield on a Zomato app or a Swiggy app or or a Dine Out or any other app drives revenue to you. It's a beautiful way of converting that investment into an outcome. So we've always looked at how do you turn, especially food safety. That's one of the areas I'm very passionate about. How do you turn money being spent on food safety from an expense to an investment? And if you're able to do that successfully, you will have a solution that will scale. Otherwise, not. So now also, whenever I look back at my failures, I actually smile because all those scars, all those wounds are a sign that we tried something new and it is okay. And if you're going to be a success, you're going to try something new. And it's perfectly fine if it doesn't work. So if you're getting into your own business or you're working somewhere, you're going to face failures, right? You have to condition your mind to be okay with them. It's never the end of life. It's never this thing. Life goes on. There is so much more to do, right? There's some things that you're not good at, and it's okay not to be good at them, or they may be too early, or you have to find the right people. Learn from each failure, right? So every time you fail, literally jot down what you did and what you could have done better, and what is the big one piece of learning that you could take away, and that changes your whole mindset. I hope at least that works for me. I hope that works for you guys.
Absolutely, sir. That answers the question very nicely. So, being okay and open to failures is, and going through the process, accepting it is what you say can work for failures.
Yes.
So, sir, moving ahead, we have a question followed by compliments for you from Abhishek. It was really great from his side to know that he's enjoyed the session. And the question follows, how do we know that this is the correct time to start a venture? Does the factor of time play its role in any venture of entrepreneurship?
Fantastic. So Abhishek, I think, is a ex Equinoxian. So if I'm not mistaken, nice to get that question from you, Abhishek. And I've not spoken to you in a while, but great to see you here. So when is the right time to start? That's a great question. So one of the then this gets asked very often. Like, do we start right out of college or do we get some experience? It completely depends on what you want to do, right? So if you want to start a restaurant, right, as an example, can you start it right after you finish college? Maybe you can, but maybe it's a good idea to work in a restaurant or work in the food industry so you understand the industry a little better. Two is a factor of finance, right? So if you're going to do something, it's going to require some amount of money. It's going to require some amount of research, right? It's going to require some of the industry knowledge. It could be on YouTube, it could be talking to a mentor, it could be whatever. But once you feel you have enough knowledge, you have enough funds, and if you have an idea that you think is unique, right? Unique enough, I think it's a good time to start, right? Whenever you're starting an entrepreneurial journey, I know so many people who started entrepreneurial journey, their first journey, and it failed. And then they've just put up that and say, "Oh, this is not for me," and they walk away from the entrepreneurial journey ever. And they're like, "Oh, I'm never going to take this kind of risk again. I'll just go work somewhere." Which is okay. Which is okay because I mean, you may want to replenish the funds you probably lost in the entrepreneurial journey, but from what I understand of people who are entrepreneurs at core and they want to always do that. I mean, they have that I call it like that worm, that's always kind of like in their brain, like something new. Like I need something new. Like I unfortunately didn't stop at the 7 companies. I kept going because I need that hit. I want that new. Like I need to be working on something new. Otherwise, I feel that I'm not doing justice to myself. Right. So when you feel that need and it's literally keeping you up at night, and that's all you're thinking about, I think that's a good time. So if it's like a hobby that, oh, I just think about it on a Sunday, and then maybe it's not a good time. But if the idea that you have, right, of how you're going to execute something, and it's something that's playing on your mind day in and day out, and you know that, you know what, if I am able to do it like this, I know it's going to be a success, right? Obviously you'll get failures on the way to that success, but if that idea keeps playing in your mind again and again and again and again and again for weeks and months together, that's probably a good time to start, right? Where you know, where you're confident enough to start. So by the way, you should have confidence in yourself to start something, right? If you don't have confidence in yourself, and if you're like, when you're saying one day, I think it's going to fail, like loudly, it's okay to prepare mentally, but I'm thinking it's going to fail, I'm going to still try. Don't. Right? When you're starting something, you need to be confident it's going to work. Your destination should be very clear where you want to go, right? Your path may waver, but your destination has to be clear. And how you're going to execute it has to be clear. Your funds need to be clear that, okay, and to get here, I need to spend this kind of money. Okay, I'll borrow some later on, but I have enough to start. And, at least have a runway of 6 months, right? Minimum. If I want to start a venture, 6 months to 9 months is the amount of money you need to kind of save or make ready before you start off. I hope that answers your question, Abhishek.
Yes, sir. I hope the same. So moving ahead, sir, we have an interesting question from our viewer. Since you are such an successful entrepreneur now after running 15 companies, could we be expecting a 16th one from your side? And if yes, in what field could we expect the same?
So, as he mentioned, successful. I would say no. I wouldn't say successful or not, but somebody who's experienced. I'm not going to start one more. What I am doing now is I'm starting projects within those companies, which are technically an entire company by itself, but it's in the ecosystem of current framework. Because creating a company from scratch, while it has a lot of excitement around it, and I enjoy that excitement, it's also exhausting, right? And I mean, now I'm only 38, but I think I'm getting old, because my goal is by 45 I want to retire. By retire means not actively run companies. Hopefully all my companies have CEOs, and I'm somebody who just visits once in a quarter and gives gyan and goes away, and is enjoying life otherwise. Um, I right now I'm not going to be starting more companies. However, I'm starting a lot of new projects within companies which tomorrow may spin off something on their own. But no, we are starting new projects within organizations which are doing well. Some of them don't, some of them do, and some of them generate a lot of revenue. Some of them don't, and it's okay. We shut down the project. So yeah, 16th company, no. And by the way, right now I'm in the form of actually, right now I'm not running 15, I'm running 7. But right now, also those companies I'm also kind of amalgamating and kind of, because by the time I'm 45, if I have to be running zero, I need to be kind of making it lesser. So either selling or merging into forming newer ventures and forming newer things. All my new ideas are being started in the companies we already run. So that's how I keep my itch. That's how I scratch that itch of doing something new. So no more new companies. No, I think I've learned enough.
So no more new companies, but building on the old ones, new
Yeah,
things on the old ones.
new things in the old ones.
Uh,
Yes.
so, sir, the next question we have is multitasking can be difficult sometimes. Not everybody can do it. So, do you have any other practical insights to cope up with the multitasking aspect of?
So okay, when I say multitasking, many people when they hear the word multitasking, they mean working on three different things at the same time. If you do that, you're actually not doing justice to any of them. When I say multitasking, and I think I referred to this earlier, is being able to zoom out and zoom in very quickly, is to be able to change tasks very quickly. So if you're doing work, I think people say, I don't have time. I reword it as I don't have the energy, right? It's the energy that you spend on something. So if you're spending half an hour, 1 hour on something, right? You need to be able to show what you have done in that 1 hour with somebody. So most of my days, actually, it's very rarely do I have time alone. Most of my time, 90% of my, or more, sometimes by the end of the 100% of my time is spent with people, because we're creating something. We're creating a process. We're creating an idea. We're creating something. So at the outcome, there is something written. In the past, the mistakes I've made is we discuss, and by the way, I've done this in office, where we write things on the board and it stays on the board. Somebody takes a picture, somebody notes it down. Now most of my meetings are on Zoom. So this is maybe in the last 1.5 years, the new thing I've learned is I have bought a software that I will, every meeting, either I'm typing something or my teammate is typing something. And we use a software for that. And it's shared across the company. Everyone has access to the different levels of the software. And every meeting, there is some nugget of information coming out. So the way to handle multitasking is to do one task at a time, but to a lot more tasks through the day. That's a great way of multitasking. It's like if you're zooming in and out of things every 2 minutes, which maybe required sometimes, but most of the time it doesn't lead to anything effective, right? So the way multitasking is, instead of doing 5 things in 1 hour, I would do 20 things in a day, right? So that is the way I look at multitasking, and that's how I'm able to handle it. And I know some people feel a lot of pressure because of it. Go with a checklist. Go with putting a checklist on the calendar. Many people have this checklist app, like the little tick 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 tick. That is great. I've done all of that. I've bought, I think, like 20 different checklist apps, right? You name the app, I've bought it at some time, tried it out. Finally, what has worked for me, and it's working for a lot of people in the organization also, is any to do means there's a task. Task means I either have to do it, with somebody. I put it in my calendar. There's a time for that task. Oh, I have to do something. Like I have a discussion now with the founder of the Foodyaari. If I can't do it today, it will go as a half an hour meeting sometime in the coming week. Somebody in my team will put that out. So I know that that's a conversation I need to have because I want to have that conversation, right? So it's no longer a to do in some checklist. Somebody in my team will reach out and we will schedule that as a half an hour. That will happen. And it will happen. It'll happen in the coming week. May not be Monday, may not be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sometime that half an hour will get done. And using your calendar as a to-do list works, I think, the best. And that's one of the biggest learning, by the way, in the last 2 years. That's been one of my biggest way of doing a lot of things through the day very quickly and not feeling the pressure.
Right, sir. It was awesome to know the different perspective that you put on multitasking, because most of us think multitasking is doing two, three, four different things all together. So it was really great to hear the new perspective of it. So moving ahead, sir, if it's a person who is an introvert person, like you said, you were shy at the beginning, how could that be a problem and how do we get around this?
Okay. Catherine, I know Catherine. Catherine is, again, ex Equinoxian. I've done a lot of cool things with her. All right. So, if you're an introvert, how do you become an entrepreneur who's not good with people management? And that would be a problem. Okay. So, when we say introverts, many people, at least the introverts I know, don't like to deal with large crowds, right? Most introverts I know are okay dealing with one-on-one. Uh, it's very rare that as an entrepreneur you have to address a very large crowd unless you're in a large organization or you're a public speaker of any kind. So it is, you have to take it baby steps at a time. So honestly, when most people don't believe it, if I tell them I used to be an introvert, I right now also am an introvert. People don't believe when I say that. They're like, oh, you're on these webinars and you do all these things, and like every day, like my entire day is on with people and with large groups. How can you be an introvert? But as a person, I'm somebody, like, in my personal life, you'll never see me with 100 people, 50 people. It's always like one person, two people, three people, like have small groups, having small conversations. I think that is how I say, how I describe an introvert. Introverts can be great businessmen, because they can have a very quick bond, a deeper bond, which is formed with people. Because if you're having that one-on-one conversation, the kind of time you can spend with that person is fantastic, right? Uh, the way I have built great bonds with people is by spending one-on-one time with them. So while, yes, I do these webinars and I do a lot of this, public speaking, in office, at work, I'm normally one-on-one. There's either one or two or max three people. It's very rare. Like maybe the innovation meets we do, where there are 1,500 people in the, on one session. Most of those sessions where I spend my time is one-on-one. But in that one-on-one, you get close to people. And you're fantastic people, and always get to know people before, like as a person. So it becomes easier for you to open up, right? And how do you get close to somebody? You get close to somebody when you share something personal with them and they'll share something personal with you, and that's how that bond kind of begins to form, right? And it's okay to share vulnerabilities with people. It is, as a leader, doesn't mean you have to be strong and have the answers all the time, right? Most people take that pressure on themselves that, oh, if I am the owner, I am the CEO, if I am the founder, I should have all the answers. No, 90% of the times I'm in meetings, I have no answers. They look at me, they're like, oh, this is the problem, how do we solve? I'm like, okay, let's do it together. Let's brainstorm together. What do we do? Okay, let's try this. Okay, did this work? Or I told you to try this, did that work? Or did your thing work? Right? So it's always important that you work with people, and as an introvert, start with smaller groups, and over time you will start seeing that you'll be comfortable in a slightly larger crowd, a slightly larger crowd. I remember the first public speaking event I had, right, was along with DNA. I think it's like 8 9 years ago, and I followed the principle that the Devita taught me, and it landed up about 2 months later, me, Equinox, tying up with DNA to do a series of workshops across Mumbai, and I didn't realize how large the audience is going to be. The first workshop I did, I was told it's going to be 20, 30 people in the audience, but when I showed up at the auditorium, there were 400 people in the auditorium. And when I peeked from behind the curtains, I literally broke out in cold sweat. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, that guy's like, no, we put it out. We thought 20, 30 will show up, but all these guys show up. What do we do now? So I didn't know what to do. Right. I literally froze for a minute, and I was like, you know what? What is the worst that can happen? Are they going to boo me off the stage? Right. I'm talking about food safety. I think after practicing food safety for 7 years, I may know a little bit more than them. And that gave me the confidence. I'm like, you know what? Let me go talk. What is the worst thing that will happen? So, what is the worst thing that will happen? If you ask that question, and the answer normally is what the person will, like, if you write to somebody, what is the worst thing that will happen? They'll not respond. If you add somebody on LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta, wherever, right? And what is the worst thing that will happen? They will not accept. That's it. So, what is the worst thing that will happen? Once you ask that question, what is the worst thing that will happen? Most of the time, you realize that nothing. The other day, we work with Future Group, and I saw Kishore Biani at a food hall, right? And I wanted to go chat with him. And for a second, like half a second, I paused. I'm like, one second, why the hell am I pausing? I mean, just go talk to him. I went and spoke to him 15, 20 minutes. We're just walking around food hall chatting. And I told him, we do this for you, we do that for you. And he's like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't do this. You should meet this person. And here are the challenges I'm facing, blah, blah, blah. And my kids were coming back. My son plays national level chess. He was coming back from a tournament. And we sat in food hall to have a quick bite. And 3 4 tables down, Mr. Biani was sitting with somebody else and having a conversation. I told my son, and my son is very shy, right? Introvert, as Catherine was saying, like, pakka introvert. I wanted to break out of the shell. I told him, I want you to go and ask Mr. Biani for an autograph. I'm not somebody who believes in autographs, but I wanted him. He said, no, 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 what random person? I don't know him. How am I going to go? I did whatever I had to, and I made him go get an autograph. I have a picture of that. I think the autograph is lost, but that picture, I think, is priceless for me. Him, and by the way, how did he go? My daughter, who is half his age, said, come, come, I will take you. Right. And both of them went together. So there's a picture with my daughter and my son talking to Mr. Biani and shaking his hands. And he's like taking the pen and making jokes about it, patting both of them. It was a fantastic experience. But more than the actual autograph, which I have lost, unfortunately, that memory and that learning was something that I will carry forever. And I'm hoping my son carries that forever. Right. So just asking that question, what's the worst that will happen, will help you overcome a lot of obstacles in your life. Catherine, does that answer your question? I hope so.
That answers all our worries of life, I think. The one question we need to ask, what's the
What is
worst
the
thing
worst thing
that
that
will
can
happen?
happen?
Very nice. So, sir, to round off the question and answer session and the webinar, what is the last takeaway that you'd like to give the audience in the perspective of entrepreneurship journey, sticking to the topic? Any more insights that you'd like to
So
end it?
entrepreneurship is a journey you should start on, is if that is something that is really driving you. It is okay not to be an entrepreneur. And it is also okay to be an entrepreneur when other people don't believe in you. Right. Uh, in I'm a Maharashtrian, and many Maharashtrians don't discuss business. They don't discuss work. So my side of the family has literally no idea what I do. If you ask them what Ashwin does, they will say business hai. Right? Literally, like, that's like, even like my cousins, right? My side of the family. Uh, they don't discuss money. And I always feel very like awkward, and nobody discusses it. So I mean, I don't bother to bring it up either. On the other side, my set of friends and some of my other relatives, we discuss money, we discuss failures, we discuss successes. And it's okay to share failures. It's okay to be, it's okay to succeed. It's not evil to make money, and it is okay to fail, right? You want to create, if you're going down the entrepreneurship path, the people around you. You want to choose them carefully, right? What you share with people, you want to be careful with that. You don't want too many negative people in your life, right? As you mature, you realize that I call them energy vampires, right? People who just suck the energy out of you, suck the enthusiasm out of you. Don't have too many of them around. I mean, some of them you can't really choose because some of them may land up become your parents. They may land up becoming your spouses. Never children, surprisingly. I've never seen a single child of any entrepreneur I know pulling them back. It's always them pushing them forward, right? Like my son and my daughter are my biggest cheerleaders. Like they will get into like my meetings. They will like, what is this product? Oh, what is hygiene quotient? Can we do this? My son is 8. He's come up with screenshots of like we've created an app called hygiene quotient that allows to monitor sites remotely, something. He came up with like, oh, why doesn't your product have this? Hey, why isn't this UI, why is this color like this difficult to read? I was blown away by the insights he had. But you want people that way. You don't want people always criticizing you. Understand the difference between energy sucking and criticism. You will have people who will criticize you in a hope of improving you, and there's some people who will just pull you down. So if you're going down the entrepreneur path, don't have a lot of naysayers, right? And understand the difference between naysayers and people who are guiding you, right? So have mentors who will correct you, right? Have friends who will support you, and understand the difference between people who don't want you to succeed, and you will have them. They may be your friends, they may be your relatives, and it is very. I don't know why I get very disturbed when I see people, saying that, doing things that way. One of the quotes I read is never take advice from a person who's never been there, right? So if somebody's giving you advice about a business, but the person never run business in his whole life, don't take advice from them, right? Somebody is working in a government job for 50 years and say, no, you should only work in government. It's safe and secure. Don't go and become your own thing and don't do your own thing. It's very risky. Has the person done business and lost money? He can give you advice saying, hey, I did this and this didn't work. I have friends who tell me, hey, I did this share market and I lost money, or I did this and I did money. And on the other contrary, I'll say, yeah, I've invested money in Bitcoin and here's what I made. Now is a good time for you to enter the market. So select the kind of people that you have. And as an entrepreneur, that's absolutely critical, right? And if you have the 5 people that you spend your most amount of time with, you kind of become the average of that. So if you spend time with 5 people who are working government jobs, you are going to apply for a government job. If you hang out with 5 people who are all planning of starting something up on their own, there's a good chance you won't start something on your own. So select your circle really well. It goes a very long way, whether as an entrepreneur or as an employee or as whatever in life. Select your circle really well. It makes a big difference. I'll leave you guys with that.
Thank you very much, sir. This ends up the entire session, and I hope that you've just added more value to each one's life who has joined us live and the ones who are going to watch this later. So, once again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It has really been an honor to host this webinar with you. And on behalf of Foodyaari, I would once again like to thank you and the audience for being so engaging with us during this
Thank you,
entire 1 hour.
Simran. You are a fantastic host, and thanks, Foodyaari, for organizing this. And anyone in the audience and anyone who sees later, if there's anything I can help with, please don't hesitate to ask, because, as the last line is, what's the worst that could happen? Right? I'll leave you guys with that. Right? Have a fantastic, year ahead. I know it's a scary time. I know there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and all this will go. It's all going to be a phase. Many people who freak out not having a job, that is bad if you're not learning something new. So it's okay not have a job, but learn something new while you are waiting, while you're hunting. Learn something new, and it's okay to take up entrepreneur internships. It's okay to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to do whatever, but whatever you do, don't ever regret anything you do. There is a concept called amor fati. Go look it up. Go Google it. Right, which is love of fate, which is you never regret the decisions you make. If you want to live a happy life, you need to follow that principle. Yeah.
Amor Fati.
All
We'll
right.
definitely
I'll,
look that up.
I will leave you guys with that. So thank you so much. Thanks, Imran.
Okay, thank you, sir. With this, we end this live webinar. Thank you for having us. See you all. Take care soon.
Thank you. Bye.